diverse in terms of sound. One song is different from the next. We wanted to have an intro that would shake things up. We wanted to have a song that is slightly reminiscent of Toxic Minds, but the longer the tracks go on for, the proggier they get, and for lack of a better term, weirder, I guess. But this is an album that me and Frank has worked a lot on, and and unfortunately, we didn't have time to do a lyrical thing on screen for you guys. And I know you guys like to read lyrics and all that. They will be posted, so you can read what this album is all about. There is a sort of, I wouldn't say concept album, but I would definitely say that this whole album deals with personal struggles. It deals with how I view things, and it deals with a lot of things. But it's a very serious personal album, and I'm glad that Frank and I could deliver something that hopefully, well, was worth all the time waiting. But yes, absolutely. If you're wondering about the track list, if you're like, I didn't write all the songs down. I didn't see, this is what it is. Let me show you all here. Here we go. This is the track listing, if you're wondering. So the first song is the intro you heard, Sky is Falling. The second is Wireframed, Equanimity. And as you all know, Asclepius was released as a single 3 years ago, I believe. And, but we reworked the song a little bit. We added a little bit, and we made sure that the production was better, because, the single, I felt it was really muddy. We wanted to make things clear, so yeah, there's that. Just a Memory is our little fucked up tribute to Swedish crust punk D-beat. There's a lot of anti-C-mex on this song, and it only felt natural to sing a song in Swedish on this album. Something we've never done, but it adds an exotic flair to it. And again, when we post up the lyrics and all that, you can really see what I'm singing about. So this is a song that is super fast. Not only played fast, but it's very fast. There's no soul on it. It's just angry punk, essentially. And there's that. Comedy and Blood is probably the most intense and crazy out there song. There's a lot. This album, I would say, has a ton of Voivod influence on it. Asclepius is total Voivod, but there's a lot of Voivod-esque riffing going on in the Comedy of Blood. So there's that. But on top of that, we did something that we've never done. We made a concept song, the next song here, called The Other. And The Other tells a story. That story, I'm not sure if we can reveal too much about it yet, but the end of the song, there's a little bit of a secret message, I guess you would call it. And if you listen to what it's all about, it makes a whole lot of sense. But you'll see. And Earthbound Dystopia is the title track. It is very, very heavy, I would say. But it's this whole album deals with a lot of lyrics, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And you don't necessarily have to agree with what I'm saying, or art is subjective, how we view it. But it deals with the world, I guess, by extension, and how the world right now is not always the nicest place to be in. I don't need to spell it out to anybody, but sometimes you need an outlet to vent and talk about how you're feeling. And when you see the lyrics of Dystopia, they can appear quite bleak, but I always say that there's still hope. There's still something to the world where when everything appears bad and horrible and dark, there's always something positive. And I can't really show the lyrics yet. We'll do so on Bandcamp and all that stuff, but yeah. And at the very end of it all, there's Scorched Utopia, which is really a continuation from Dystopia to Utopia, because as I said, the album is a lot of views, but I believe that there's optimism in the world. I believe there is still a chance of people bettering themselves and the world at large. So I would say that even though things are bleak sometimes, there's still a renewal for everything, and something good comes out from the bad. And I would say that thematically, Earth Boiling Dystopia is the world boiling with its troubles, and through its implosion of various dichotomies, the utopia that surfaces from a bad utopia has scars and is destroyed, but it's always a process of renewal. The Buddhists do this thing where they often create a lot of art in the sand and stuff like that, and it's these beautiful large art displays, but they all destroy it at the end because they have a mentality where nothing lasts forever, and or life is fleeting, time is fleeting, and we need to appreciate now instead of dwelling too much on the past and on the future, and Earthball and Dystopia, as I said, you'll see the lyrics soon and all that stuff. But listen, thank you so much for enjoying the album. The stuff on Bandcamp and all that stuff is gonna not necessarily sound a little different, but I'm gonna get real for you here in a second. We were rushing to get this done today because we had various problems in the studio, quote unquote, where things crashed and we had to recover files and all that stuff, and it was down to the clock going tick tock tick tock, and we were sweating going, oh my god, are we gonna get out in time? And just 10 minutes before this premiere started, we managed to get it all working. And I was really nervous, and so was Frank, but we managed to do something here. Anyway, I'm gonna be right back. Give me like 2 minutes, and I think I'll be back with Frank. But give me 2 minutes before that, and we'll have a little discussion, I guess. All right, see you in a bit. All right, I think we have Frank here ready, so let me call up Frank here.
Hello.
Hello, Frank.
Joel, are we live?
We are live. Hello, everybody.
How y'all doing? Oh my god. It feels, I can't even put it into words, it's like such a closure to this.
Yeah.
It's like letting the horses out of the fucking barn and, raise the shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But I was gonna say we've had quite the journey with this album, and we've had because I believe we started working on this album actually just in 2017 after Toxic Minds released. We started writing early material and all that, and
Yeah.
it's been a process of really selecting what we want this album to sound like. We did not have any throwaway tracks this time around. Not that Toxic Minds had any, but back then the standard for quality was it wasn't really defined yet. Whereas we felt that we need an album here that we are there's no fluff on it. There's nothing like that. And I think that the album right now, as it is, it's a really unusual kind of metal album because I don't personally know if we've gone fully progressive and technical here, but I think that this album is very much the next sort of phase and level for us as a band. When we look back on Toxic Minds, we're super proud of that album together and all that. But I think with this album, there's more to be proud of, if that makes any sense, because we have worked our asses off for this, and I think that all the waiting and all the stuff has been worth it, because this album, we wanted to keep it under wraps. And as you know, with my video game streams and stuff like that I've done, I've teased a little bit of songs, and I've shown off a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and but it's very cathartic, and it's very exciting for us to actually show this off, because as I said, we worked together on this thing so long, and it's definitely a lot of new stuff for us as a band in terms of sound. This is probably the first time that it is the first time Scythelord has ever used clean vocals. It is the first time we've pretty much used clean guitars as well, and we've definitely created something that is not your usual slab of thrash metal here. There's definitely thrash metal on it, but the whole album definitely doesn't sound like a new thrash band, for example. And what I mean with that is there's a lot of thrash bands out there that play a very kind of predictable music genre, and we definitely did not want to get predictable with this album. First of all, we wanted to also stray away from any sort of Toxic Minds 2. We could have easily written the same album twice. They would have been really easily to do, but we didn't do that. We made music that we wanted to play, and as fun as playing your boilerplate thrash and death metal is, having something that is dissonant, weird, and unique definitely gets my approval as an artist and someone who creates art with Frank. We want to make something that we can look back on in a few years and be super happy about. We're still happy about Toxic Minds, but this album, you know, is so fresh and so like new now that we haven't really taken it in yet what it really sounds like. Like, it sounds strange. We worked at it for so long, but we really need like time to sit down and like really feel how this album is, because it's still so alien to us to have this out and ready. And as I said, you know, the Bandcamp links and all that stuff will be available. Don't know, maybe tonight. We'll see what we can do, but you know, we really worked our asses off for this, and we can't give you an exact like TikTok like we did on the premiere stream here, but you bet that I'm going to be hounding everybody about, hey, check this out, you know. But yes, unfortunately, the Twitch things on this channel does not allow VODs. So if you have listened to this album tonight, you are going to just have to remember what you listened to and have that be emotionally sucked into, you know, because you're not going to be able to replay this now. So you're going to have to wait a little bit onto the Bandcamp links, and also Spotify and YouTube and all that stuff. So, you know, there's that. But listen, I talked enough, and I definitely think that Frank has a lot to say about this, because Frank, as you know, plays both bass, he plays guitar and solos on this album. There's only pretty much one solo that I do on this entire album. I don't know how many I did on Toxic Minds, but Frank has a huge influence on this album, because Frank has always been more of a like proggy kind of guitarist anyway, and I've been more into the kind of standard thrash metal. And I think us combining our forces and making something here, because you have to remember, when Toxic Minds was still like being recorded and written, Frank was still not in the band. And now that we've grown organically as a band, you're hearing the full dichotomy and kind of natural progression of us working fully like with each other to make something, and it's quite different. But Frank has a huge influence on this album, and you know, the bass. I saw a lot of people comment about the bass. That's all Frank, and the solos. That's all Frank, bar one in Earthbound Dystopia. And on top of that, what you're also hearing on the album is that the guitars are quite sharp and quite wide, and that is because Frank and I are playing double tracked. That means that all the songs both have me playing the left guitars, Frank on the right, and it's a total sort of you know, togetherness to that. But listen, I've talked enough. I'll let Frank, you speak about how you felt creating the album and how you feel about it and all that stuff. So,
right. Well, I just want to say thanks again for everyone who tuned in, who liked the album. It just feels great that it's out in the wild. It's no longer ours. You know, we're like kind of like just hoarding this music to ourselves, and now it's for everyone to enjoy, and I feel good about that. But yeah, it was quite the process to step from Toxic Minds, because it was like a few years after Toxic Minds released, we started writing more music, and then we're like, well, maybe we should try this. And no, this kind of sounds like Toxic Minds. Should probably do this. And then it really spun out of control, where we just started doing really adventurous stuff, and I think it really paid off, because these are riffs that I like, that I'm proud to share, you know. And it's something that we definitely thought about. There's so many songs that went under the bus. We wrote so many songs. It was like 8 out of 10 of them fucking died. There's such a high attrition rate. We're very selective about what we were going to put on this, and I think it shows. Like, I think it's funny. In the production stage, when Joel was bouncing me mixes and all this other stuff, I'm like, oh my god, I can't fucking stand these songs anymore. I've heard this so many times. Yeah. But when the stream comes on, it's a completely different vibe, where I'm just banging my head. I see people getting excited and shit, and like, okay, you know, this is pretty jamming. I like this.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
This process of you know, making sure that the best stuff is on the album is it's been quite the process, and I think that what we've had here is an album that is really a really picked album that is what is the best we're doing, so yeah, it's been quite the process. It's been quite the process, and we're super proud of this thing. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's super exciting to, as you said, have this finally out. And I'm sorry that we aren't immediately releasing it right now on Bandcamp, because I know you guys are like just hungry to listen to it again and all that stuff. But yeah. We're not going to talk too much about what each song means, or we're going to talk about the lyrical content. We're so fresh of like getting this out now that it is what it is. But yes, yeah. I guess is this where we start taking questions? I don't know.
I mean, if we want to, do you guys want to ask questions or whatever? All right. You want to go first?
Okay, here we go. How did you guys meet up? Well, we actually answered this on the Toxic Minds premiere, but not everybody's been here for that. But Frank, he checked me out playing some video game streams and all that stuff, and he sent me an email saying, you have, because I was showing off Scythelord on the streams, I think, and I remember you sending me an email saying you want to jam sometime, and this was back in 2014, and we really started playing, and we started oh, you know what, we have similar interest here, and ever since then we've traveled the world together. We've been to Japan together, and we've been this and that, and we've created 2 albums now. So it just shows how little insignificant things lead to big things in the future. But yeah, we pretty much met. I think the first time you visited me was in 2016, right?
Yeah, it was sometime in the summer or something.
Yeah.
This was when Sweden had this eternal sunlight, and sleeping when the sun is still up, man, that really fucked with me. I'm from Florida, I'm from Miami, and you don't get that shit, It's 9 o'clock and it's dark, so I'm used to that. And I'm not used to 4 a.m. having the sun in my face. I gotta get these blackout curtains and shit, and it really bothered the hell out of me. But, visiting Joe was fun. I had a lot of fun there. And you got apocalyptically sick while I was there. Yeah,
that's right. I got really sick, and it was so bad because we were still recording Toxic Minds, and what happened was we were writing Bloodshed at Dawn and Mind War, and I totally lost my voice, and I was just, this is the worst time to get sick. So, but we managed to still get something out of it, and we still had fun, but it was a really bad time because we wanted to create music, and we wanted to jam and all that stuff, and I was just too sick, and you don't get a window of opportunity like that every once in a while, so but hey, that's pretty much how we met. But yeah, I guess you want to take the next question.
All right, I saw a question. Who did the art? Well, there was a guy by the name of Adam Burke. If you go, I think his Instagram is Nightjar Illusions. Nightjar Illusion Illustrations, not illusions. Nightjar Illustrations. He did work for Vector, which is partly why we chose him, because we both thought that album art looked incredible, and so we commissioned him, and he churned out this magnificent painting, which I do have on my wall right now, which is pretty cool. It's the guy does good work, and we wanted to have something cool to be the face of the album. That's pretty much it, really.
Yeah. But if there's one thing that we talked about this, me and Frank. If you notice, there's a sort of thematic thing going on here with the colors, because back when Toxic Mind was released, you might notice that the entire album is black and white. That is not an intentional thing, but it's very evocative of what kind of progression the sound has evolved into. Because Toxic Minds is just constantly thrash all the time, and it does not let go. This time around, we really evolved our sound to be more wide, and we wanted to explore more things, and we wanted to really, for lack of a better term, get a more color palette into our music. and we wanted to make something that is wide, and we wanted to make something that is, you know, unique, and a piece of art here that isn't your standard like thrash album, which, you know, a very monochrome looking album, Toxic Minds, which I love Mark Riddick, I really do, but you know, this album is really not about, if for lack of a better term, this album is very stripped of any jovial metal cliches. Like Toxic Minds had a very juvenile kind of approach to it at times, where it was very much metal for the sake of metal, if that makes any sense. And we don't really think that way anymore. We try to make music that evokes feeling and what makes us, you know, enjoy it. There's a lot of serious things that I go into on the subject matter and the lyrics, and you know, it just wasn't the time and place to have a sort of Toxic Minds approach to this. And you know, we made an album here that is again very colorful in terms of sound and all that stuff. So it's not an intentional sort of thing with the album art, but it's definitely evocative of what kind of sound that this has transformed into. So yeah, but you know what? Did you do the last question?
Yeah, I did. I was answering. Okay. The art. It's
okay.
Your turn.
Will we ever hear the songs that didn't make the cut? Possibly. There's
maybe.
We don't know yet, but again, we wanted to have the very best here, and we might maybe sometime in the future do something. You know, there's definitely. We segues into another question here. I know that a lot of people were asking about vinyls and CDs and stuff like that. The thing is, we didn't want to have CDs and vinyls on pre-order and stuff like that, because frankly, we don't want to give people something that doesn't exist yet. You know, we need to have this ready to go, and having this early being shown in premiere is a much better thing than people getting shafted out of a thing they're waiting for that they can get delivered. So, you know, it is what it is. But here's the thing: we do want to do vinyls, we do want to do CDs.
Oh yes.
The thing with that though is that the vinyls, because I'll give you a little clue why this extra bonus song thing might be very real. A vinyl holds 45 minutes of music. This album is about, I think it's an hour of music. That means that this album on vinyl is 2 discs. Now the thing is, when you have a second 12-inch vinyl, that means that theoretically, if this album was just that and nothing else, just the album, it would be like one track on a whole vinyl, which means that we're gonna fill that album with extra stuff and goodies. So if it ever happens on vinyl, then you're definitely gonna get extra stuff. You bet your ass about that. But are we ready to give any clear answers when and how? No, not quite yet. But I would definitely say it is very, very possible, you know, and soon. So you know, but yeah,
we're gonna try to do it right. You know,
yeah.
Do it right the first time. We don't want to push out a mediocre sort of like vinyl. I want to get a vinyl with quality print, quality sound. The artwork doesn't look shitty, because I buy vinyls for the artwork mostly, because just to see the artwork blown up right in my hands, that sells it for me. But we definitely want to do that, and we are looking into ways into achieving that goal. So do keep an eye out. That's all I can say right now.
Yeah. But yeah, if you want to take another question.
All right. Let's see here. Man, there's a lot of damn questions here. Going. And what's next? I have no idea. Biggest inspirations. Okay, I like that one. This will kind of spell everything out and kind of demystify the album. But Joel mentioned Voivod. I'm a Voivod fucking alcoholic. It's it's so integral to Scythelord's DNA, and a Razor as well. And those are two bands from Canada that are so different from each other. It's really wild. Like Razor's this super hardcore raw thrash metal band, and this Voivod's very sort of experimental, yet they still retain their sound in some way. Personally, there's this band from Russia that I'm absolutely obsessed about, and Joel can attest to this. And they're called Aspid, and they basically like a super tech thrash metal type of outfit, you know. And they're the tightest band I've ever heard. They're very evil. If you like our stuff, you should definitely check out Aspid. What other stuff are we influenced by?
Well, I think what's interesting about this album, because we don't like, we're influenced by a lot of different sounds and bands, but ironically we don't sound too much like them when we actually play on this album. It's more so a mishmash of influential sounds and moods. You can definitely hear a lot of like dissonant sounding chords, and that's very Voivod-esque, but at the same time the vocals are very much not like, you know, Snake, or you know, the compositions of these songs has Voivod influences, but it's not just like a Voivod-esque album. But I would say it's like a melting pot of sounds here. It's like the aggression of something of like Morbid Saint. So somebody mentioned Hypnosia from Sweden earlier. There's definitely like the pummeling of like a Dark Angel thing, very like fast thrash. But then you have, you know, a very like tech way of playing this stuff with odd time signatures and stuff like that. But we really want to make songs here that was not just E-standard kind of, as I said before, boilerplate thrash, and not to again demystify the album as Frank mentioned, but if you listen to Equanimity, for example, there's a really weird kind of like sweeping pattern on the it's not sweeping, it's alt picked, but it's very the intro. And that's, I would definitely not call these guys tech thrash, but if you ever heard of a Texas thrash metal band called Hellstorm, for example, they play a lot of that very fast and intricate kind of arpeggios and stuff like that. And, you know, you have a little bit of Hellstorm, Morbid Saint, Voivod. There's obviously, you know, I guess Vector has always been tied to this band in a way, because here we have Adam Burke that made Terminal Redux, but you know, we had a song on Toxic Minds called Redshift, and Redshift had a very space kind of vibe going on for it, and the riffs were very Voivod-esque. We like Voivod, but I definitely wouldn't say it's something we strive to be or anything like that. But we both, you know, really like Voivod, Vector and Voivod, all these space metal bands essentially. But we don't necessarily want to emulate that sound. It's more so us taking all our favorite things and putting it on puree on a blender, and what you hear is the sonic equivalent of that. But we have a ton of influences on this album, and you know, you won't be able to like reverse engineer any of the riffs. It's very much, when we write music, it's very much, we don't go to songs and make a song that's like, that song should be like that or anything like that. It's very much what we feel sonically and emotionally is created out of sort of together consciousness of wondering what is good music, you know. And that's why our criteria for the songs here on this album, they're very, we could have had this album twice as long with tons and tons of material, but we knew that it would also, quantity over quality is terrible, and we chose the very best here to represent the album. And oddly enough, the track listing might not look like super long, but this album is actually longer than Toxic Minds. It just happens that the songs are longer, but we really chose to have the very best here represented, and you know. But listen, I knocked off a few questions there already. I think you go back to you, I guess.
Okay, let's see what we got. And I'm trying to see what's a good question here. Favorite songs off the album? That's kind of hard. These are our favorite songs we made that haven't passed the filter, right? What's another one? What basses did I use? I used an Ibanez. What was it? Sound Gear. Where is it? I have it in the case somewhere. It's an SR305M. It's like a cheap $500 bass, but in conjunction with what I use and what Joel did in the production, we got a pretty destructive bass tone, which is great. I love it.
Yeah.
Joel did a fantastic job.
Yeah, appreciate that. Bass is important in music, and I always hear music in metal, and it's like the bass is there only for texture, not necessarily like a presence on the album, which I think is like, if you're making technical and intricate music, it's a damn shame to not show it off. And bass is great. It's the low end of a song, and to just have that be mimicking the guitars or whatever, it's I don't do that. So we wanted to have a lot of bass. We wanted to have a lot of bass on the album. We wanted to have, and really kudos to Frank here, because Frank is not only making these fantastic like solos and compositions and all that stuff, but on top of that, Frank's presence bass playing wise is all over the place. You have Comedy in Blood, for example. The chorus is just me singing, drums and bass, and it's very unusual for something like that. But you hear it really clearly. You can hear the equanimity. You can hear like the lines on. We even jokingly referred to when we were writing this song that this section, I believe, before the bridge is called the bass zone, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. If you heard the album, there's a ton of bass licks and riffs on that. So but personally, my favorite song earlier, it's hard to say, because again, they all are so, they're done with blood, sweat, and tears. You can tell by me doing the vocals, for example. Sometimes my voice is breaking from the intensity of my screaming, and that's because I never half-assed any of my vocals on this album. I wanted to have a total spur of the moment, what feels right is right. I don't like when you can hear a vocalist not give a shit about what they're doing. So what you're hearing here is like imperfections and like screams that like destroy my throat. But for the intensity and the love that was made into this, I think that's only a given, that you should back up the intensity with a powerful performance. So we really gave a shit about what we did. For example, Earthbound Dystopia, at the very end, the Scorch Utopia part, I got those vocals done, and I wanted them to sound like I'm screaming my absolute throat off, and it is a surprising thing that I still have a voice after all that. But we made sure to have every song here be super tight, and we wanted to have something that is going to stand the test of time from 5 years from now. We'll go like, oh, Earthbound Dystopia, So yeah, you know it, but you know it. You can take another one. I talk way too much. You can take the next one.
There's a lot of questions. I've got a lot of good ones. I see this question a lot. We plan on doing any live shows? Oh man, that'd be the shit. I would love to do a live show and just shake the whole house and all that stuff.
I'd love to.
The problem is that it's just literally just me and Joel. That's it.
Yeah.
And we're also on different sides of the planet, so that kind of makes it difficult. And hiring musicians is expensive, but I don't know. Who knows what the future will hold? because
Yeah,
that's definitely something both of us want to do really badly.
yeah. We besides the want to do something like that together, it's also the fact that, you know, with regulations and us not knowing like what you can do with travel and stuff like right now, you know, that's also a big question mark for both of us. But, you know, if the opportunity comes and the time is right, you'll definitely have something. But you know, hey, if we can't perform in front of a crowd, who knows? We might just do like a live stream from a recording session and play together. You know, you'll get like sort of Scythelord live. You know, who knows? And who knows what the future brings? I know a lot of people that play in quarantine also do that sort of, you know, webcast or live stream where they play material, but they're doing it from the convenience of staying at home, you know. So who knows? But yeah, I can't guarantee nothing at the moment with like live shows, but we would love to do it, you know. So there's that.
Yeah, I would love to do a live show. You know, Joe, do you remember the time I went to Japan the second time around? Do you remember how fucking wild that whole event was?
Mm-hmm.
It was a small little venue, and at the top of this building, where at the bottom there's a it's like a mini mart almost. Mm. You take this elevator, you go up, and it's a fucking stage where you have like metalheads and beer and all this other stuff. And it's a small venue, but it's so fucking loud, and the crowd is just crazy. And you're always just getting hit around. People are bumping into each other. People are going on the stage, jumping off. That's a place we would love to play in Osaka, Japan. To play that venue at that festival, that would be like peak Scythelord to me.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, absolutely. I guess I'll take the next question. When you're making songs, did you go into making them with intent like this is going to be a Scythelord track? Or do you start to make music in the middle and go, this will work as a Scythelord track? Well, Scythelord is, you know, our primary bands, I guess. And when we make music and we play riffs, you know, we create music outside this stuff too. But I think Scythelord is the closest thing to like a completely stripped of any, you know, jovial kind of thing. It's completely serious, and it is what it is. But when we write music, it's very much the natural process of, you know, because when we had Earthbound Dystopia as a project, we were like always going about, you know, the next song, thinking, you know, should this riff be there, should that, and we wrote things, but we really don't think about these things. We make music. We don't pander to anybody, you know. We make music for ourselves essentially, and what sounds good sounds good. So we don't analyze. We don't really sit around and think about, you know, what riff would go there and stuff like that. It's just sort of natural, and it's something we don't even really consider. We just do what feels right, you know. So I don't know. It's a stream of consciousness thing, you know.
I don't know. Like I write a song, and then I'm like, hey, this fucking stuff rocks. Hey Joel, check this out. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. And then we start snowballing it a bit, and then 80% of the time it's like, no, this song sucks, scrap it. Mm-hmm. And then you keep doing that until you get a song that you really like. My advice for that is to just write a whole bunch of songs and pick the good ones. Just be as prolific as you can, because with every sort of writing venture you go on, you learn a little something, and that little something could go forth making a piece of music you're really proud of. So that's what I would say about the matter. There was a question that really grabbed my attention. Let's see if I can find it. Where is it? It just disappeared on me. There was it was something like what was it? Were there any inspirations that weren't necessarily music, like what is it? Film, literature, all this other stuff? Because I think for me there's this movie called Stalker, and it's from 1979. It's an artsy film. It's a philosophical, slow film that I think about a lot, and it gives me pause to think about what it means to be a human and what your what your struggles are and what you really want out of your life and all this other stuff. It's a lot to unpack. There's so much stuff condensed into this movie. It's kind of like a horror movie of the human condition, and that's what makes me inspired to write music about it. And especially with Earth Boiling Dystopia, you have like this. I don't want to get into the lyrics, but you do have those sort of same things where it's, what is being human? Where is humanity going? What do we want out of our existence? Type of stuff. That's my big inspiration. That isn't music.
Yeah. But with me, when I create music, it's I don't know if it's me inspired necessarily by any specific bands or anything like that, but as corny as this sounds, any music that invokes a feeling, like any art, is tied to emotion. Like art without emotion is null and void. You know, anything that invokes a feeling in you is important. And what I listen to or what I feel and view is the music manifests itself through a lot of emotions. And when I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling angry or I'm feeling happy, a lot of that channels into the subconscious that later evolves into making riffs and music. Not necessarily so much so that if I'm feeling crappy and sad, I'll make a sad song, but it's more so taking an energy or a vibe and transforming that into a output. Because, you know, the important thing for me as a musician and an artist is to not only express yourself, but also never stagnate and make the same thing twice. And that's why we purposely wanted to not make a second Toxic Minds album. We wanted to make something that is a little scary in a way to make, because we are venturing into areas where we've never tried things, and you know, it is exciting to push yourself, and we wanted to have songs that essentially were different pieces of art with different feelings, and how those pieces of art manifested. You know, if you felt a certain emotion through a different song, then, you know, we've done our job as artists, as creators that are able to invoke feeling in people. You know, for example, we have The Other, and The Other is probably the most unique song on this album because, as I said, it's a concept song. It's a song that tells a story but without any words. And we're not going to tell you exactly what the song is about or anything like that, but if you listen to it and you're feeling imagery pop up through the music being played, if that invokes mental images or something, or if it invokes like, oh, I see what they're going with, that is the greatest accomplishment you can do as an artist, to create imagination in people and to make people, you know, think and feel, because, you know, if you're viewing something just for the sake of killing time, or if it's just background noise or whatever, then are you really like watching something? It's I don't know. That's why when I really want to listen to an album, I've always had trouble listening to music in school, for example, because a lot of people, or, you know, if you can't pay attention in class, or, you know, there's too much noise, people say, especially my teacher said something like, oh, you should listen to music. I could never listen to music while like I'm doing something, because I'm getting too invested in the music. You know, it's my escapism. It's my you know, my safe corner, because music doesn't judge, man. Music doesn't question. It just like is there to be enjoyed. And when I'm doing something I enjoy versus sitting in an environment that I don't enjoy, it's very much so that I'm going to escape to the music and completely forget what is in front of me. So I've never been able to not listen to an album and not get invested into it. I mean, if it's a bad album, absolutely not. But if it's something I enjoy, you know, and it's something that evokes feelings in me, I'm going to stick to that, and I'm going to you know, go back to it, you know. And that's what we wanted to create with this album. We wanted to create something that really we give a fuck about, you know. You can make an album to just have fun for the fun of it, and that's fine, and we did that too, of course. But we wanted to really make something that makes people view it as a piece of music rather than another metal album, you know. So I guess that's a little too you know, get off your high horse here, but at the same time, I think when you know you've created something good, not speaking narcissistically here, but when you know you've worked for something for 4 or 5 years, and you know that people have waited for it, there's a sense of pride and accomplishment when you know that your struggles and your energy to create something has paid off. You know, if this music has resonated with people, then you've definitely succeeded. You know, so
feels good.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's I don't know. Like I said, it feels great. It feels great to just sort of to just sort of reap the benefits of all this sort of artistic sort of growth and these pains and these doubts and all these other things. But you finally get something that you are, that you're like, I got it this time, and this is it, and I'm ready to show this to everyone. You know, I'm ecstatic right now. I love it. I feel great.
Yeah, absolutely. What song has changed the most in the course of making the album? Well, it's hard to say, man, because we didn't want to change too much of what really worked. I think the song that's been here the longest is probably Wireframe. Wireframe has, like, it's one of the earliest songs that still, well, it is the earliest song that stayed on the album here. But it's mostly unchanged. But it's more so the production has gone through so many stages of what we want to hear and what we want to do. But I think we've rearranged stuff. We've done this and we've done that. But I don't think any song has gone through like radical changes. You know, if you compare Toxic Minds material, if you compare like the version on the demo compilation versus what's on the studio there, you have for example, Eastern Warlord, and you have Bloodshed at Dawn, and they sound completely different. These songs this time around aren't pretty much like that, so you know it.
It doesn't it feel good, Joel? Oh my god. Okay. Let me see this. Best, worst, most rewarding, most memorable things making this album. I think it's, for me, it's finding out what works and what doesn't. It's sort of making sense of like the scrambled notes in front of you, and you're looking at your instrument like, how do I play what I want to hear, right? Because for me, there's like an internal sort of music that I have in my imagination that I have to put onto the guitar, right? Mm-hmm. And that, finally figuring that out and just getting that to go and put it on an album, make it sound good. I think that was one of the highlights for me, especially when I'm slaving away, tracking the songs, trying to get the best take possible, trying to make sure this riff sounds good or whatever, being so like under the microscope about it, and just really analyze it. When you're recording music, you really see how much of a musician you are, and you see how good you are, and it's a hell of a learning experience. And that does it for me.
I can tell you this right now, that Frank is definitely the more technical player, and a lot of the riffs he wrote, I had to like push myself to play. For example, if you heard the Equanimity song, I'm not a very alt picking kind of string skipping person when it comes to guitar stuff, and it's when you're playing somebody else's riff, you really see your own abilities and what you can't play, and I had to totally change up my style to be able to play that song. But I'll say this, I'll switch up the format and actually say this. If you want to hear the difference in how we wrote this album, what side of us is more prevalent on each song in terms of like where the pendulum swings, I would definitely say that if you listen to Equanimity, that's very much a complete Frank song. Frank wrote that, and it's very, very technical, And then you have something like Comedy and Blood, which I wrote, and it's more so a sort of primal aggression, very, for lack of a better word, very like thrashy, But it's interesting how this all instrumental came together, because when you have a song like Just a Memory, which is a punk song, we go into a lot of different areas, like in our interest in music. Like I'm not that much into punk, actually. It's more so Frank enjoying crust punk, but it just so happens through some like sheer irony that like the greatest crust punk bands are either from Japan or from Sweden, and it's a very sort of caveman kind of like thing. And when we decided to make the punk song, and it's a very crust thing, it's like, well, Anti-C-Mix like pretty much made this stuff, why don't we make the song in Swedish to really make a very exotic thing? Because Frank mentioned Aspid earlier, which is a Russian thrash metal band. They sing in Russian, and there's something about listening to a vocal performance or a track, and the language is alien. The music appears exotic and weird, and like, what is this? And when we did a song, I felt it's really gonna shock people to hear me actually sing in Swedish. It's gonna sound weird to hear us play a punk song that isn't intricately played. It's like almost to the point where the guitars are sort of out of tune with each other, because it's meant to sound dirty, and how the song starts just a noise wall of feedback and guitars, and it's very it's very primal and very, very aggressive and exotic. So we really wanted to try different things around with this album, but it's almost like it's sort of like a stealthy thing to do, because Wireframe started off, it's very Toxic Mindsy, It's very evocative of that era of Scythelord, but then after the solo, you get that swing tempo. You get that kind of like time signature starts to like muddle a little bit, and it gets sort of weirder and weirder. And when Equanimity comes around, the sort of transformation there has sort of really shifted. And when the time signatures are starting to appear in Equanimity, and with how technical it is, it's already really in a different area. But when the clean vocals come around in Equanimity, you know that we have really gone from the Toxic Mind sound into something else. And you might notice this too. Asclepius is on this album, but it is a little different this time around, because we clean up some parts. It's still Asclepius, but it's reworked, and it's a little different this time around. But even when Asclepius was released, we wanted to make something that was dissonant, weird, and just something was different about it. But you might notice that the pre-chorus this time around on Asclepius as well is different, and you'll find the lyrics soon. But I always felt that when we released Asclepius all those years ago, that section was a little not hollow, but it felt like something was missing. And I'm like, there's more I want to talk about in this song that isn't just in the lyrics on the single. I want to extend on that and add more. So there's that. But again, the process of what is the like hardest song to play, which by the way is Total Equanimity. And once again,
that song is mega hard.
It is definitely the hardest track. But But besides that, the way we make songs, the way we process these songs, the way this all comes together, it's. I'll tell you what. I'll make a really weird comparison. It's like if you think about if you're in bed and you want to go to sleep, and you got go to sleep, it doesn't happen. The moment you relax, that's when you're like, I didn't even think about doing it. It's like swimming in a way, you know. You don't think about swimming. You don't think about taking a step. The moment you start to really analyze, like, okay, left, right, you can't. It doesn't come natural. But when you start relaxing, and you don't feel a pressure of what do we do next, because we have the privilege of recording this from our homes, and you know we don't have a studio time to adhere to. But when we create music naturally and organically like this, it just so happens that it manifests itself in a very progressive way these days. But that's just because this is the music we want to play, not necessarily because we want to show off how technical we are, or like we want to show off like, oh, how many riffs can we play a minute or anything like that. But it's more so as I said, the natural sort of progression of going from Toxic Minds into Earthbound Dystopia. You know, it's just it is what it is, and it's something real organic. So yeah, long answer. I'm sorry.
Let me see. Is being creative emotionally exhausting to some extent? Keep scrolling. How do you two deal with working for long hours on the album? Well, the thing is, there were definitely throughout the interim between Toxic Minds and today, there were definitely spots where we just didn't feel, or I'll speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for Joel. I'll speak for myself. But there were spots where I'm like, man, I don't fucking want to write this. I don't want to do anything. I don't even want to. If I look at my guitar, I'm going to vomit blood. You know, that's how I feel sometimes. But the thing is, it's like being creative. I heard Steve Vai said this, and he said it in a really cool way. It's like kind of like a muscle. It's like rather than being a dry spell, think of it as like, you know, after exercising a lot, there's a what is it called? There's a time for respite. There's a rest. There's a time where you can recuperate. And I don't think. Earlier I said you have to be as prolific as a writer as you can, and that in itself could be exhausting. You need to be fair on yourself and realize when you need to stop pursuing creativity, because it can wear you out. Creativity is not this all-encompassing good thing. It could wear you down pretty good. So you got to take rests from it, and don't feel bad for doing that. So just chill out, you know.
Yeah, with anything that's art related, the moment you start creating things for others and not your own creative outlet, it quickly stops becoming art, and it becomes contrived and forced. And again, we there's not a single riff on this album that says, you know, would people like this? Would people not enjoy this? In fact, we probably make more riffs to fuck with people, to make them go, what?
Yes.
We make things that just be like, what are they doing? You know, you have that part in equanimity towards the end where the bass is doing something different, syncopated versus what the guitars is doing, and the vocals are like off kilter too, and it's just this weird dissonance. But a lot of times I feel that music that is strange and eccentric is often times the most memorable, because it even if you view it as bad, or if you're like, this is not my cup of tea, you still go like, what was that, you know? And it turns out that Frank and I used to listen to a lot of very abrasive sounding music that like not a lot of people enjoy. But I think once you start to really embrace music that is off kilter and, for lack of a better term, progressive, you unlock a whole new world of excitement and what can be done sonically, you know. And that's why, for example, I couldn't stand Voivod for a couple of years ago, you know. I was like, this music is too strange and like esoteric and cerebral. Like I that doesn't sound pleasant to my ears. But when you start to realize that, like, they are playing music that sounds weird on purpose. It's not just like musical ignorance, or like they can't play their instruments right. When you realize that they're doing this stuff on purpose, you're like, oh, I see what they're doing. And it's a real, it's a real, it's well thought out too. That excites me because metal music is a very acquired taste anyway, but to also have that be delved into further with a sense of progression and musical prolificity, it's so exciting to listen to it. And that's why these days I listen to a lot of like progressive music anyway, because quite frankly, playing in 4/4 all the time and playing the same old Slayer, throwback riffs, it's just not exciting anymore. It's just like I can do that in my sleep. But when you hear something that is truly fucked up and you really think about it, like, what was that I heard last time? Then you really have a sort of connection with the music where it really touched you. You really felt that, this music is strange. I want to learn more. Show me more. So, yeah, we make music for ourselves. We make riffs to not necessarily be contrarian or like make people go like, oh, what the hell? It's more so we want to challenge ourselves, as musicians and see how we can evolve from playing. But it's really all about pushing the envelope as musicians and all that. Now, am I saying that we are the most unique band in the world that has done things that nobody ever has? Of course not, but I like to think that when people outside listen to this album for the first time, they know that this album is not going to be your standard, like, standard album of what should be the logical successor to Toxic Minds. But we chose to write an album that was very, for lack of a better term, well, progressive. Is this tech metal? Is this progressive metal? I don't know. But I can definitely say this. It does not sound like a Toxic Minds Part 2. So...
Right. I just saw this comment. What the fuck? Scythelord is car bomb in disguise, and that made me laugh a lot. If you don't know, car bomb is just like really, really esoteric, really eclectic sort of technical, sort of almost Meshuggah-like band, but not really. They're pretty wild. They're like a math metal type of thing. If you want to hear something really wild, check out car bomb. It's pretty fucking. Let's see. Well, we got another question. Question. What is this? Do you guys know Hell Witch? I've seen Hell Witch. These guys are great. I wouldn't say that they're like inspired. They haven't inspired me, but they were cool. I think Hellstar did more of the inspiration. But what do you think about Hell Witch, Joel?
I think, is Hell Witch the band that has a song about like fast food?
I have no. I don't know. They have the. What? How do you say it? Stygian miscreancy. I don't know how the hell you say that. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Hell Witch has that very specific. I call it very. It doesn't sound American. It has this European flair to it. Well, it's hard to describe what I'm talking about, but I call it very Teutonic music, where it has a sort of subconscious dungeon-esque to it, where the music feels Eastern, and I'm not talking like Far Eastern, but you listen to a lot of like 80s like music, and you just know when something is like from Italy or Europe, and Hell Witch kind of has that vibe of, what is this? And I think you won't necessarily find that in your Death Angel albums or whatever. But can I say I'm a big fan of Hell Witch? No, not really. But they are definitely one of the faster thrash metal bands, and they remind me a little bit of like Assassin or Protector from Germany too. But I know Hell Witch. They're alright too.
Yeah, they're a cool band. I like. Here's another band that I like. Speaking of ridiculously fast bands. You want to check out something quick, check out Rigor Mortis. Those guys are blistering. Some say, some person says they might be too fast, but I think that's kind of the novelty of it, that it takes on a whole different feel when when things are clicking away at like 2,000 miles an hour. It's like F-Zero speed, and it's fitting.
I'm very much also. I'm not the biggest fan of like technical death metal. I like if music is ridiculously fast. I also want it to feel sloppy, because at some point there's a human element that is very important for music. Where like if you can hear the musicians struggle, you feel musically inclined to be like, I can really hear that they're giving a fuck about what they're doing. But when music is completely stripped of any mistakes, and it becomes non-stop sweep picking and like 300 BPM drums, and it bores me. It's so well played that I just don't want to listen to it. It sounds like I'm listening to a calculator, you know. And that's it's wanker. Yeah, I would say so, but that's why, for example, on this album, there's tons of mistakes on this album. There's dissonance in the tuning and some of the vocal tracks. Like, you can hear that I'm screaming so hard that my voice is breaking. But that's what it's all about, man. It's all about passion and like giving it your all, even though you're. I mean, I like to think of us both, me and Frank, as pretty technical players, but at some point you hit a wall and you're like, okay, I can't fucking play this completely 100%, and that's exciting because that's real passion for the craft you're making, you know. So yeah, I think that the biggest important thing when you're creating anything is to just give a fuck what you're doing, you know. The moment you stop giving a fuck what you're doing and you're making stuff on a cycle, or like you're doing to make into the people's demands what they expect out of you, then you know, it just goes to shit, because then you start to question your own art. You start to say that, is this art good enough, you know? And you should never ever think that way, because you're creating art for yourself. It's cathartic. It's an outlet, and that's why, again, our music here is a little strange sounding, because it's what we want to do. You know, we want to make this not so much to play impressively or sound weird on purpose. It just so happens that this excites us to be a little off kilter, and it's, you know, you can really tell that this album wasn't done in an evening. So, you know, but listen, I'll be right back. Frank, you can just keep taking more questions. I'll be right back. So,
yeah, to ape off what Joel said, to hear like these bands with like these all sorts of, you know, very impressive, very surgically clean playing, where you have the drum triggers and everything's very, very like almost perfect, musically perfect. Everything's on the beat all the time. But I don't think I find as exciting as I do with music that has a little bit of messiness to it. The bands that play perfectly are kind of like movies. It's kind of like watching a movie with no struggle in it. Like, you know how it's going to play out. You know what to expect. That's what it is for me. That's how I see it. That's not the way to see it. But there are some that they do have neat sounds. Joel disagrees with me on this, so he'll call me out on this. But what's this band called? Arcspire, Involuntary Doppelganger. That's exactly what I'm talking about. But for some reason, I just like that sound. I don't know why. It just, you never know why you like something, but you just do. It just doesn't make any sense. What is it? How hard was the riff when you folks were recording this? At first, they were incredibly difficult, because with stepping off of Toxic Minds, we were sort of like figuring out what needs to be new and fresh, and we have to figure out how to get there. And figuring that out for the first few like years is pretty difficult, because it's not like a technique thing. It's a mind thing. It's an artistic thing. What do you want to hear? What do you want to play? Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, he said something that's incredible, and I think this could be applied to all arts, and that's learn to play what you want to hear, or if you're a visual artist, learn to draw what you want to see, type of stuff, right? And I think I think that goes a long way. And it did a lot of sort of figuring out what riffs I want to play, what solos I want to write, what melodies should go where. It isn't so much a technicality. Yeah, like, yes, equanimity was very hard. Some of the songs were pretty difficult to play, but it was really a mind game type of thing, and it was just pretty difficult throughout. What do you think of noise music like Hannah Tarash? Is that the band that drove a bulldozer through the stage? Oh, let me Google this. Yeah, it is. I've never seen their performances, but I did hear them, and they're pretty wild. I see pictures. I never see videos, but I see pictures of like them throwing like bottles and glass and breaking fluorescent light bulbs and shit. But the thing that tops it all is this fucking guy drives a bulldozer through the venue, and he's just screaming his head off, like his face is contorted in anguish. It's the funniest thing. If you Google Hannah Tarash bulldozer, you're gonna see it for yourself. I'm gonna look at that. Hannah Tarash bulldozer. Yeah, there it is.
What the fuck are we talking about?
We're talking about Hannah Tarash.
Oh, I know those guys.
How they drove a bulldozer through the venue.
Oh, I know those guys.
Oh my god. It's the funniest shit. He's screaming his face off.
I like bands that impose danger on the crowd. There's nothing like fighting an audience, you know? It's like, these people are here to enjoy the music. Let me physically assault them with a bulldozer, you know? Like, if the music isn't abrasive enough, I'm gonna throw feces at you, you know?
Well, that's what Gigi Allen did.
Yeah, you know. I've always said this, but isn't it a damn shame that Gigi Allen was punk? Now, Gigi Allen was a shithead, quite literally. But the thing about this, though, death metal is very abrasive and very, like, filthy and disgusting. However, most death metal people are very solid people that like kittens, and they don't engage in any of the crazy shit they sing about. And there's like not a lot of death metal bands that are as filthy and vulgar as like Gigi Allen's is, you know. Like, where's all the death metal bands that, like, I mean, I don't advocate this kind of shit, but just for example, when would you ever see, like, yeah, we have a dead corpse on stage, yeah, we're gonna throw coffins at the crowd, like, you know, that kind of shit. No, what you get is just standard, you know, meat and potatoes music that's just like, hey guys, thanks for checking out the music, you know. And does this tie into the what I talked about, is like giving a fuck about the music? No, not really, but I'm saying, if you're gonna make a very out there music and you don't accompany your music with also an incredible performance, that makes me sad. Now, am I saying that if you play music you need to like drive a bulldozer through a crowd? No, but I'm saying for that niche kind of music that is so extreme, I wish there was more stuff like that. Like, say you have a grindcore band, right? Which grindcore, I would say, is probably like the most extreme form of music to a degree. When like, one of the very few things that I've seen that makes me laugh about this, but there used to be a singer in a death metal band that puked live. And, you know, as disgusting that sounds, it's like, you know, I would totally see that, because it's the spectacle of thinking, my God, this band is out of control. What the fuck is going on, you know? You know? So I'm just saying, I like music that is also wild in terms of imagery besides the music itself. But I'm also not so much into music that is like... music that is not entertaining, if that makes any sense. When music becomes like overtly political, or like it's out there to really talk about like issues or whatever, that's cool and all that, but really at the end of the day, I like music that makes me entertained, you know. And music should be fun. You know, that's all it boils down to. Music that makes me miserable and makes me like, oh my God, what is this? I don't like it because I just indulge in things that make me happy, and one of those things are just metal music that people give a shit about, you know. But when you have, I mean, I don't want to talk too much genres here, but if there's one thing that really bores me, it's like drone metal stuff and like post metal stuff that is. I'm sure that there are a few fans of that in chat tonight, but it seems boring. You know, it's like if it's meant to evoke a feeling, I'm not getting any out of it because I'm just looking at my phone, you know. But hey, here's the thing: art is subjective. I shouldn't be telling anyone this is bad, this is good, because you know, if everybody had the same taste, everything would be fucking boring. But yeah, for me, it's a matter of having a connection to the music that is a positive energy. I don't like a bad energy in my music, you know. So, you know, yeah. What was the question that even started this Hantarash shit?
I kind of. Oh well, no. There's literally that. Have you heard of Hantarash? It was literally that, and I was talking about. I was like, oh, is that the band that has the bulldozer guy? And then I Googled it. It's like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that stuff's exciting. Maybe not if you're in the crowd and you're, you know, you're being run over by the tracks and you resemble a half-empty toothpaste, you know, thing, right? But I think it's interesting as from like in a cosmic perspective where I want to have an art performance that poses a mortal danger to the audience.
Yeah.
I think that's very progressive.
Mm.
Oh my god! But you know, this shit is funny.
I also saw.
What is this?
I saw a quick question about who did the drums on the album.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Gene, back on Talking Minds, you know, Gene Logan was sort of not an abbreviation, but it was kind of it was a funny take on Gene Logan. Gene Hoglan, sorry, Gene Hoglan, but it's shaped around as Gene Logan, because the Dark Angel strapping young lad drummer, because it's very intricate and technical, but it was a drum machine. Now we actually did get a drummer this time. You might have heard about him. He's playing in a couple bands, but his name is Angelo Sasso. It's funny.
No, it's a funny name. I'm sorry.
Next question.
Okay. Where is this? I can't even think about that. Let me see this. Let me see.
I keep seeing a lot of people questioning why the album name changed from Utopia to Dystopia. Alright, I can ask that real quick, or answer that real quick. Well, it used to be Earthball and Utopia, but the thing is, with how very angry and how the lyrics deal with a lot of things, it's more fitting to have a Dystopia. However, the very last track on the album is scorched Utopia, so there is still that in it. It's more so that the title track wouldn't have made too much sense if it was already a boiling Utopia, because well, I'm not going to talk much about the lyrics here, but I'm going to say this: with how things are in the world, I would rather say that it's people know things are bad rather than people saying, oh, it's great, you know. There's clear problems in the world, you know, but as I said, there's always the human condition and the spirit of humanity that through adversity, you know, with the struggles that we face, we grow closer to each other. And, you know, I might sound like a very pessimistic person when I'm talking about all this, but I personally believe that, you know, at some point, people have to unify, because the way things are going, the world is a negative place. This always has been. But I feel now than ever, there's more conflict ever in the world. And unfortunately, you know, it is I would say this. Utopia is a perfect place, but I think as human beings, I talk about this in Comedy of Blood actually, but we have a insatiable lust for violence and killing and war. It is like a binary contrast, a light to the dark, if you want to say that. But in order for us to even be happy, in order for us to even achieve a utopia, we need to also like experience horrible shit. Because if we were, I don't want to like quote too much about this, but in the Matrix, for example, I don't want to quote the Matrix, but just for example, the first Matrix, when the machine took over, was a perfect like dream world, and everybody was happy all the time, and humanity cannot deal with that. Everybody needs to be unhappy to appreciate the happiness, you know, and it just so happens that again, I'm not talking too much of the lyrics, but it seems the more technologically advanced we get, the more unhappy we also get. We are more than ever in a state of complete technological wonder with phones and like convenient, like where you can order a food at like 2 a.m. from a place. You don't need to cook for yourself. You know, medicine is so you can like contact a doctor through your phone, do all this stuff, and you would think that all of these things would necessitate not a lot of things. You would rather be happy all the time, but more than ever are we in need of like stepping away from the internet, stepping away from the computer world, you know, because when we get so much validation online, when everything is so global to the point where you can do anything you want anywhere, anytime, when everything is so achievable, we also, I think, expose our subconscious to how fucked up we are, really, because instant validation also shows that the way we think, the neurons in our heads, the synapses that go off, maybe too many good things create even worse things. I don't know how you want to spell this out, but we are definitely in need of perhaps a detoxification from the internet. And you know, I spend a lot of times on the computer too, but I also try to step away a lot of times, and I try not to like divulge myself too much in instant validation, you know, because, you know, obviously you guys know that I stream video games and all that, and it's very nice and reassuring that to make people laugh, but you know, when you're constantly pumping out content and making people happy all the time, you sacrifice a lot of yourself doing so, and it's important to recuperate and step away. And that's why I always advocate like if you take the internet and shit too seriously, maybe it's time to just get some oxygen outside, you know, maybe it's just time for a walk, because your whole world is just not your phone or your computer and all that. But back what I was saying, I think as the human condition is right now in the Western world, first world, with all these instant validations and easy life things that are available to us, we are ironically more unhappy than ever, you know. Like the happiest people, in my opinion, is the people in the like far fucking east on the Mongolian steppes that live in a yurt with a horse. Like a simple life that is devoid of simple convenience ironically seems the happiest, because you start to appreciate the small things in life, the things that really matter with your family and friends and stuff like that. When that is substituted with you know, a Facebook world where you know 5,000 people, but do you really know these people like personally? No. Will these people be there for you when you break a leg? No, you know. So I don't know. I'm just saying that the world is a weird place, and the way things are, I definitely see more dystopia than a utopia right now, which is ironic because we live in a utopia. But with the way you check the news, the way you see things escalate and go to shit, I don't know if it really is the technological wonder that we paint it out to be at times, you know. So I don't know.
Right. It's mind you, we came up with Earth Boiling Dystopia before, during 2019. So this is before everything went to hell in a handbasket, and a lot of political tensions. You had the plague going around and all this other stuff. You got to be careful and do all this other stuff, and the lifestyles changed the world over, and it was such a wild coincidence that all this shit happened. It gave us more reason to pursue it, because now it's starting to. Though I hate to say it, sounds like I'm with the solipsism, but it sounds like the world is shaping into the world we made up beforehand, right? More so, and it's coming into sharp relief, right? But the thing about we were talking about the Mongolians and versus the one versus life in the Western world, where everything's sort of, thinking about the future, right, or thinking about the past. I don't want to make assumptions, but I feel like people who don't know the concept of the internet or any of these social media stuff, or what it means to have a social status, or the social status we know of, I feel like I would think those lives are more present in the moment, rather than say, for example, what I'm thinking, what am I going to do tomorrow, or how's this person going to react to what I have to say, I have this going on, or that. I feel like there's less of that in those sort of, like in Mongolia, like you said.
No.
I feel like that offers a different world scope, and partly the reason why I like to travel is you get to see that perspective, and then you get to really think like, oh wow, I've been doing this wrong.
Yeah. I said I wanted to do in the lyrics, but Frank, do you mind if I read an excerpt from Wireframe?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right, so this is gonna show the lyrics to Wireframe real quick, but I'm just gonna read them off a little bit of what I've been talking about, like a slow read, like a poetry almost, but But the Wireframe lyrics is as follows: a new age of expiration, a brand new kind of isolation, rising form of late stagnation, dehumanized, detached from actuality, malevolence feels my substitute for reality. Words so careful, but actions so mindless, tools of the trivial here to bind us, moments of hatred to be renowned, such an anti-cathartic breakdown. Lost to places of self-surety through repertoires of animality, re-enter through the wires of tomorrow, survival in a place of sorrow. All that I know I learned through pain, such pride through this hollow name, judgment with no hesitation, constructed through brutal validation. Fictionalized reality, utopia and error, cannot tell the difference, reflecting the mirror. Words so careful, but actions so mindless, tools of the trivial here to bind us. So, it's a little excerpt.
I mean, that says everything that needs to be said, really. There's nothing to follow up with that. I mean, it's one thing singing it, and it's another thing reading it out loud is a kind of different. Which I think everyone would have the ability to do that in a short matter of time,
Yeah. But yeah. Now I'm gonna say this on a more positive note. This is a very serious album, but we had a ton of fun making this, and we had a ton of fun premiering this to you guys. We've been live for over 2 hours now, in fact. This whole album is an hour long, but I mean, weirdly enough, you don't feel that length at all. It's bizarre, but we super proud of this album, man, and I want to say thank you so much for waiting for so long for this. Now, I'm gonna say this once again to reassure people. If not tonight, probably tomorrow. We're gonna put it all on Bandcamp and all that stuff, and eventually I'll have it on Spotify and all that. If you're wondering about merch, that's surely coming. And if you're wondering CDs and vinyls, all that, surely that's coming too. But for now, I want to say thank you so much for enjoying the album as it premiered live. We really wanted to. We were pulling hairs the very last minutes because, again, we had a lot of technical issues to even get this working and showing it off. So, there's probably a little bit of like cleanup to be done in the mix on the actual Bandcamp. Maybe a little like this and that adjustments, but performance-wise, it's going to be the exact same. But I'm saying more like little pops and clicks and little like things that shouldn't be there, like intentional, I'm not saying so much like, oh, there's mistakes. I'm saying more so like sonical fuck-ups that is like not meant to be there because the computer was crashing, whatever. Like, expect that to be cleaned up and just presented, because again, you were listening to an album through a live stream. Like, the shit is compressed, shit gets bitrate crushed, and it's not really representative of the, I mean, you heard the album, yes, but I'm saying, like, listening it to your own, enjoyment and all that stuff, you're gonna have to, that's when you're really like, okay, I can actually turn this up really high and, like, enjoy all the little this and that, so. But, yeah, everybody, I don't know, Frank, you want to take one more question?
All right, questions, one more question, let's be a good one. This is the time went like really quick. How do you spend the remainder of the day celebrating a release? Well, I don't know.
Do you want us to be completely honest?
What?
We're gonna have a few drinks.
Yeah. We're just gonna.
I
think we deserved it.
We're gonna have a beer. We're gonna We're gonna celebrate, and we're gonna take a little relaxation. If that means that like all the social media stuff goes up tomorrow instead, then absolutely. But I think after all this, then Frank and I are gonna take a little vacation and all that stuff. But don't worry, we're not gonna be slacking off or making sure that like, oh, bon voyage or anything like that. But we're gonna be working hard to get all the extra stuff out and shirts and all that stuff when it comes out. But you know it. Anyway, all good.
Oh yeah, questions.
Oh.
I was listening to you talk. There's some funny questions here. What does the future hold? I have no fucking idea. I don't know.
The future of Scythelord. Well, if you thought this album was weird, probably the third one is nothing but slam poetry and 15-string guitars, and there's only one tom on the drum kit, and we have a crab as a vocalist, so it's going to be very counterintuitive, and it's not going to be presented as music. It's going to be presented as garbage. So check that out whenever that comes out. But for real though, let's do one more question, then I think we're going to sail off in the Scythelord distance here. So
all right, let's see here.
Make it a good one. Make it a good one, chat, because make
it count, son.
Make it count, son.
All right. Let's see here. Let's see here. Which one grabs your attention?
I saw. How do you think you've changed as people since Toxic Minds? Well,
it's a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty long question here, or answer rather. So I'm trying to condense it down to something digestible. But I think if you're talking performance-wise, I think that I really wanted to make sure everything sounded super tight and nice and all that stuff. But no, I think I definitely improved, and I think that the music speaks for itself when we're writing music, because something like Comedy and Blood, which is so like sonically fucked up and weird, is showcasing that we don't try to make too much standard stuff. But when it comes to beyond like the musical stuff, we all grow as people through our moments in life and all the journeys we cross and the paths and all that stuff. But definitely, because when Toxic Minds came out, we hadn't explored the world yet, me and Frank. And it was my first time traveling with Frank, for example, and it really opened up my perspective on how incredibly small the world is when you have, when you've lived your life for like 20 years in the same place, and you realize, the world is more than just my town. You start to really acknowledge in a way that perhaps the way you're living your life isn't perhaps the best. Not so like negatively, but I'm also saying like, well, people over there have a completely different mindset. What is alien to me is normal for them. And you realize that the world is a whole lot bigger than you thought it was. So traveling with Frank and doing all this stuff has definitely opened up my wanderlust in life and a lot of things. I'm a very impulsive person. I've always been that way. But to really do something scary and traveling the world and doing that sort of stuff, it's been super exciting. And I think definitely that we have we sure have changed. I don't know what else I can say, but I always try to challenge myself. I don't try to stagnate and all that stuff, but it anyway.
For me, it's like when I wrote the songs, or some of the songs off of Toxic Minds, I was still very new to the whole production thing and trying to work out the thing. What is it I'm trying to say? It was a very peculiar situation that I was in, because I was working with Joel, who at the time, he was just sort of internet person, and now he's this guy I'm working with is just sort of out of a common interest to create metal. And not only are the logistics pretty wild that we live in different time zones in the distance, but we both made it work out. And through all that struggle and that adversity, I feel like, not only you have other adversities in life outside of music, but I feel like all the sandpaper life throws at you, it kind of shapes you into a finer person, right? My values have changed since then. I've literally grown up since then. You see different things, you go to different places, you meet different people, and then your art, if you're an artist, your art is a reflection of yourself, right? And I would like to think that since then, I've grown up, right? And Toxic Minds, while that'll be there's a place in my heart for that album, I feel like this new one is I feel like it's a new high, and the next one, whenever that is, it's going to be chasing the high, right? And that's part of what I go for when I try to create stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, but who knows? I think our awkward things in life, or the stupid mistakes you made, without those mistakes and all this, like, oh, that was so clumsy of me to do, or whatever, then you can't really grow as a person. And I'm not saying that that Toxic Minds was like a big, oh man, I look back on that and I think, oh man, that could have been so much better. But like, without trying and trying to improve and stuff like that, there can be no chance of improvement, because a lot of people that talk about self-help, I'm not talking like mental health or anything like that, but I'm talking a lot of people that are like motivational speakers and stuff like that. I always have a major distrust for them, because it's like their whole profession is just to motivate people. But I don't know if you can really motivate and improve as a person unless you fuck up, and it's important to not be too scared of fucking up, because if you don't take any risks, then you're never going to if you don't step out of your comfort zone to create something, be it a new project or something artful or anything like that. Playing it on the safe side, you can do it, but if you already know you're good at something, then you're not proving anything to anyone, and especially not the one that matters the most, yourself. So challenging yourself, because I'm not going to talk religion or any of my spiritual beliefs, but I think the life that we've been given, I think it's very important to do the most out of it, because without going forward and having a carpe diem mentality, then you're not going to be growing as a person. It's important to realize that not all mistakes is that bad, because sure, things are bad, but you weren't that person you were yesterday. You grew from something, so it's important to always challenge yourself and not get too bored with things, and never be afraid of failure, I guess, because fuck it, you're still alive. If you make a bad album, if we made an album here that totally sucked, so what? We made an album here that at least we're happy with, and at the end of the day, if you're happy with something and it's good, then people can shit on it, but personally that that it's like getting a tattoo or something that you don't identify anymore. You're like, dude, this is so stupid, but hey, it was the person I was, and it's like looking at a bunch of stairs or something like that, right? You got to take each step and go forward up, and if you're stomping on the same fucking thing constantly, then you're not really moving, are you? But ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for checking out Earthball and Dystopia. You'll be hearing more about the Bandcamp stuff very shortly and all that, but be mindful that Frank and I are probably going to be having a few beers. We're going to be celebrating, so if this was a big event, I'd be like, hey everybody, let's have a beer, beers on me or whatever. But yeah, man, I want to say sorry that there's not going to be a VOD available on this Twitch recording. This was a very impromptu thing. If you were watching live, we planned to do this premiere, but if you want to listen to the album once again, then I'll tell you what we can do, Frank. I can tell you here's a great idea before we leave.
All right. What's this?
I say that we play. You have a pick and one of your favorite songs on the album, and I'll pick one, and then we'll have 2 songs from the album be played, and then we'll sail off.
All right. I wish I could throw a dart to the, kind of pick at random. Why don't you play? Let's play. Choices. All right. Hey, chat. Why don't you give me some inspiration here? What are you thinking, Joel?
I don't know. A lot of people really enjoyed Equanimity. I saw that, but so you say title track. I don't have a poll here, but I think
I've seen a lot of Equanimity here.
I
think we might go with the Democratic one for one of these.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll do Equanimity, and then let's ring out with the other, because I think that track is really stands on its own as a slab of music that is very different from Toxic Minds. So, But all right, everybody. I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for checking out the album. Thank you so much for waiting so patiently, and thank you continually being patient with us as we're getting the Bandcamp stuff ready, probably for tomorrow. Shirts and all that other shit is probably coming very, very soon. So, I thank you for your patience. Thank you for the support through all the years of Scythelord. For everybody that ever bought like a beanie, or they bought a patch, or they bought the things physical, or just listen to the music on Spotify or iTunes or whatever on YouTube. Thank you so much for checking out our band, man. It means the world to us, and it's incredibly nice that you guys are continuing to listen in and giving a shit about music. So yeah, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Actually, I'm sorry. Tell you what, chat. I'm sorry to interrupt the music, but I'll tell you what. Here's a great idea. You were asking for lyrics for this song. I got you once.
Since I was to trust